Greetings and salutations, fellow maidenless trash. It is I, Eric J. Chucky, joined as always by the boy, the many-handed.
L plus ratio plus you're tarnished. And we're here to talk about lots of stuff, because there's a lot of stuff we want to talk about that isn't a full podcast.
Yeah.
So, what do you want to start with?
Well, let's start with how cool Rob, a guy from Ohio, and Jesse WWCH are.
Very cool.
They sub to us on the Patreon, and my friends, I ask for very little money a month to help me out with my life so I can continue to bring you this sweet-ass free entertainment. $5 will get you early access to episodes of Journey of Wrestling, and anything else is just, good beans. Thanks, I like you.
Yeah. So, WrestleMania? I guess it's the shortest and most topical part.
Yeah.
We didn't watch the show.
No.
we don't watch the WWE anymore.
I feel so free. We made the metaphor for so long, the simile, whatever way we said it, that, as Dane Cook once said, trying to leave the WWE is trying to leave an abusive boyfriend, but you can't because all of your CDs are still in his truck.
And this was like hearing about your abusive boyfriend trotting out all your favorite CDs and wiggling them at you. Like posting on social media about how, look at all these cool CDs that I have that you could be listening to if you came back. You know you're going to come back. No, I didn't.
No. And it's all just sound and fury. Like, I hear they put on a good show.
Yeah, I'm sure it was a fine wrestling program. Yeah. WrestleMania of all shows is probably fine.
Yeah. But as usual, it means nothing. Their tag division is a lie. Both of them, for that matter. It comes on the back end of a lot of disappointing news and some good stuff. But it's just, I can't live there anymore.
Yeah, look, one of the reasons that it was tempting, that my favorite CDs were posted onto Twitter, is because it does look like it was a good show. It does look like it was fun. It looked like there were a lot of fun moments, a lot of good matches, a lot of fun nostalgia pops. WrestleMania is probably a good time, but I can't go back.
There was that 15 minutes where Logan Paul was on the screen.
Yes, that's true.
And I feel like that is the low point, but also emblematic of everything else wrong with the show.
Like, on the one hand, yeah, but on the other hand, if you think for 10 milliseconds that Tony Khan wouldn't put Logan Paul on his show in 45 seconds if Logan was interested, you are very wrong.
And that's the point at which I would be trying out something else, I think. But maybe not that dramatically, but I sure would not be watching the show anymore. That episode, I mean. I hope if you guys are WWE fans, feel free to let us know in the comments. Tell us how you thought about the show.
Yeah, we typically don't try and talk about stuff we're not actually watching, because that feels unfair. But, I mean, we both keep our heads in wrestling news, so we're aware.
This was even more in our periphery than I think most events and pay-per-views. I usually check after the show is over, the results. I'm just curious how things go. And a lot of the news I watch on wrestling is
WWE-centric, because WWE is pretty much the center of the wrestling universe.
Yeah. I am glad to hear that most of the reasons for Cody going to WWE are healthy, non-spiteful reasins.
Yeah, one of the things he said that I found really understandable was, being an executive is very fun, but I want to be world champion. Which really sounds like, actually, I can get behind that reasoning, because it means he wasn't willing to put himself over on the show he ran.
He also said he didn't think he was mature enough to handle that position, and that's a big thing to say. He said glowing things about the entirety of AEW in short.
He's got himself a good, solid multi-year deal where he'll be an upper mid-carder at WWE. And he'll enjoy it. He'll make a fuckload of money. They pay people so much money. And then he'll probably go back to the indies. It's good for him. Get your paper, boo-boo. I'm not mad.
Yeah, I was frustrated for a while, but it's that silence, I hate waiting for anything. Not that I'm an instant gratification kind of person, but like it's more that
the not knowing is frustrating.
Yes, waiting for information is the worst version, and because it just sends me up into a tizzy. And this was like a month in change of, oh, Cody might have said this. Oh, people think it might be because of this. And now we have, if not super fine details, a concrete narrative.
Yep.
And
it's
that
what I'm
good.
not mad about.
No,
honestly.
yeah. I'm confused, but whatever. I'll get over it. It's not like he was ever my favorite wrestler in the first place.
Otherwise the show seems like it was a fine time. Everyone says Pat McAfee's fucking brilliant, but I haven't seen. He was after I stopped watching.
He was doing commentary toward the end. We saw maybe 2 shows. I think we did podcasts on him, but
maybe.
like that was literally 2 shows we never watched week to week.
And also like we're very checked out on.
And it's the vast differences, and the reason I don't think I could ever go back is I know how it felt when we would sit down to watch a pay-per-view and how we felt after the pay-per-view. It was like going to Thanksgiving with your really racist uncle and hoping to God he doesn't say anything. And when he only makes sort of an offhanded referential comment and you leave, your body feels racked and broken, but you're like, at least he didn't say anything too bad.
And like you do like the rest of your family and they are still there, but it's not great.
No. And now I can watch a pay-per-view and go, oh, okay, I didn't like some of those calls, but overall, wow, what a fun show.
What a fun show with fun talent. And also, AEW is just more interesting. We're still watching week to week. Do you have any idea how long it was that I wasn't watching week to week wrestling in WWE? It's been since like 2012, homie.
Yeah, it was before we started this podcast. I love their tag division. I didn't realize how much that was a big thing for me.
Until you realized how much of it is a sharp contrast.
It is sharp. I think the thing that WWE truly 100% has over AEW is their women's division. But the WWE keeps firing their women's division, so soon AEW will have their women's division. Minus the 6 people who have been at the top of that division for the last 10 years, and that's fine.
They can stay. I understand. You're making a lot of money.
Sure.
There's not really much detail that I like.
No, yeah.
Roman went over. Smart. Good call. Right call.
Yeah, I'm glad. And I didn't think they weren't.
I'm told the Stone Cold match was good. I haven't watched it. I feel like I've betrayed a younger version of myself by just not caring. But I don't.
I tell him it was for fighting the power. He'll understand.
And I was more emotionally affected by Triple H officially retiring Boots in the Ring than I thought I would be, especially after so many wrestlers have kind of big time wrestlers named like Mark Calloway have spit on that tradition.
Unlike Mark, it wasn't like a nebulous sort of, yeah, I guess he's just done thing. It was more like, well, I can't because I've got a device in my chest and it's not good to get zapped on live TV. So, we're done.
We're done.
It does seem more deaf. Now, but the thing is, too, the difference is, if even in a year, 6 months, Triple H finds out he can get back into the ring,
he'll immediately get back in the ring.
And that's fine. I'm happy for him. Because
that's
it comes
a win.
from I was
like
told
Edge.
I couldn't. Yeah, absolutely.
It wasn't a choice he made.
Right.
It was a choice that was made for him.
Right.
That's different.
So, yeah. The big good news we're reporting on, as though you come here for the hot goss. They're letting wrestlers back on Twitch and Cameo, the WWE is. And that's a lot of pressure off the gas for me driving as far away from this company as possible.
It's a good sign that at least someone is able to wrangle Vincent Insane McMahon.
It was Triple H who made the announcement, and it happened not long after he actually came back to work, so I don't know. I don't know.
Look, Triple H lived long enough to see himself become the hero, and that is an uncommon arc.
That it truly is. Moving along from WrestleMania.
Yeah.
We've been busy lately. Usually we have more of a buffer. Typically you'd be seeing, unless it's like a movie event or something.
Or wrestling or pay-per-view that we really want to watch.
Absolutely. You'll be seeing a podcast we recorded like 6 months ago.
3 weeks in advance.
Yeah.
To not be
exaggerating.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The word wouldn't come to me.
But we've been week to week with both this and Journey of Wrestling.
Just because, like, look, real life stuff's happening.
I mean, real life stuff is happening, but let us also be honest. 2 video games we've been looking forward to for years dropped within a week of each other.
That is a part of it, yeah. Sometimes it's, we could record a podcast or do this Journey of Wrestling, or I could play fucking Elden Ring. So...
I don't think we're ever going to have a full podcast on Elden Ring, because...
There's too much. I must sum up.
A, what the fuck do you say? It's good. B, it's going to be so long after the release just because of how we play games. And again, 2 games came out, not just Elden Ring.
And I have a day job that I have to do that takes up a large section of my Elden Ring time.
I have a day job. It just doesn't pay very well and I make my own hours. But it's... definitely something I do want to talk about because, I mean, it's Elden Ring. I feel like you've had a less frustrating relationship with the game. So I'd love to hear your thoughts first.
Yeah, there have been moments of frustration.
Sure,
but
it is a
Dark Souls
Soulsborne
boss moments of frustration. There are little. The game has stolen approximately 120,000 souls from me. I mean that very literally. There were 2 separate times right after I beat a boss while dying that I couldn't get my souls back. One time because my runes had clipped into a wall and I couldn't get to them, and the other time because I went and got them and they just didn't give me any. Fuck you.
Whatever order of events happened, that okay, dead so no runes, spawn rune thingy because boss died.
Like, and look, I'm not mad because I found ways of getting those runes back. I found nice, easy farming spots that make it so that it's not like a huge impact on my playtime. But there have been moments of frustration. But generally speaking, my thoughts on Elden Ring. Well, to quote another YouTuber, yeah, it's open world Dark Souls, 10 out of 10. What the fuck?
I'm really looking forward to my second playthrough because, as with all games that have RPG mechanics beyond the bare minimum, I have fucked up.
He has this habit of accidentally, regardless of the choice he makes, making the wrongest possible choice with everything in an RPG the first time through.
Yeah, and I didn't... Like, I knew the horse was going to be part of this game, but I didn't realize that through the decisions I made, the horse was going to be a big part of me playing this game.
Because of the specific build that both he and I went with, we both started with the same starting class, and we're doing variations on a very similar build. Well, that build doesn't have a lot of hit points, and it has a lot of ranged spells. So if you're in the open field and you need to get distance, well, you could run on your tiny, dumb, tarnished feats, or you could get on the giant fucking horse who's much faster than you.
Right. I feel like if I'd gone for a tankier build, I feel like if I'd done what I usually do in a Soulsborne game and build health,
build health
before I decide
build health
what I'm
and
doing.
Strength the first time through.
I don't even usually build strength. I just build health and like stamina or whatever until I get to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm going with this weapon, and then I'll level up my damage. But I didn't. I was like, I know I want to use magic
because it looks so cool.
Yeah, it looks so cool. So I went that route, and I mean, there was a brief foray where I went into strength because I thought my flail leveled on strength. It did not, and I had to respec. But then I went to Dex. And because I'd been playing the last, 4 times I played Dark Souls 3, I didn't build any health because I didn't need it, because I'd already played Dark Souls 3 enough that I didn't need it. I foolishly went into this game thinking that. And no, idiot.
Now, to be fair, we both did that.
Yes.
Because the last couple times I played Dark Souls 3, I didn't end up building any health because I didn't need it. It was fine. I was good enough at the game that I didn't get hit all that often. But we both got a fair amount of way before we had to build health. But take it from us, if you have been playing Souls games in the past and you're interested in Elden Ring and you somehow don't already own it and haven't already played more of it than we have, fucking how. But if you do, build health.
It builds at least 20 as a baseline.
Because you need it. At a certain point, it's in the open world and the bosses, they just do so much fucking damage that you're going to get one-shot by everything if you don't build at least to 20.
Well, and my biggest complaint is, because it's open world, difficulty is fluctuating.
Yeah.
And you don't always know exactly where you're supposed to go. They kind of loft you in the right direction.
They nudge you.
Yeah.
There are nudges.
But it's not concrete like it is in the, very linear, with certain exceptions, Dark Souls games.
Yeah, you can sequence break a Dark Souls game, but that is what you're doing.
And sometimes there's, like, you can Mega Man choose. All right.
You can do A or B, but you're going to end up doing both A and B.
Yeah. So, I because I had no health, and they kind of use health as a gauge for, like, you should or should not be in this zone.
Like a gating thing.
Yeah.
Like, are you a bad enough dude to be in this zone is kind of decided by how much damage the enemies do.
Right. So, like, say I had 500 health, and I was in a zone where the enemies do 525 damage. I'm supposed to be there, but I'm still getting one shot. The same as if I have 500 health and I'm in a zone where the enemies are doing 2,000 damage. I have no idea how to tell the difference, except how long the enemies take to kill, and there are so many different varieties of enemies that's not always as good of a barometer.
Yeah, because sometimes an enemy will have not much in the way of health, but it'll still be doing its zone's level of damage.
Yes, or it'll be armored, or have resistance to whatever type of damage I'm doing, so that my specific choices have made it questionable.
Or it will be, something from an earlier zone that isn't doing as much damage, but it has all the health in the universe.
So it felt very swingy not having build health. Now that I have, and I think I'm sitting at about 20.
It smooths out.
Yeah, I feel a lot better about most of the zones I'm in. I can afford to make mistakes, more than once even. And it's helped out a lot, and a lot of my frustrations are probably gone. But I'm really looking forward to that second playthrough, so that with all the knowledge I've gained, I can go forward and make choices.
Yeah, I mean, look, with the knowledge I've gained, unless they patch some of it out, which they might do, they do balance patches on this game.
Yep, that one just dropped
unlike
yesterday.
Dark Souls.
Oh, they did.
But way before I started playing.
Yeah.
Unless they patch something out, when I play a second time through, because what I'm doing next is I'm just building a giant dad. I'm going to get the biggest fucking weapon I can find. I'm going to have a health bar that goes all the way across the screen, and my strength's going to be 4 million. And I can get to level 40 in 20 minutes of playtime, just based on knowing how to manipulate the open world to get to places quicker and get a bunch of free souls, a bunch of free runes. And that'll be really fun. And I'm looking forward to that. But I am going to beat the game first.
Yeah, I want to make all my mistakes in one run if I can. And my run, I can't decide if I want to do the same thing as you or try out Faith, because a lot of the Faith spells, there are so many different schools of Faith magic, and I'm really curious to see how they play out.
I will probably do a Faith build of Elden Ring, definitely at some point. I mean, I am going to be playing this game for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
But having played a magic build, when I am forced to, whip out a melee weapon and fight like a man, I can tell that my Schwartz is not quite big enough at this point. I'm not as good at the mechanics of this game as I should be for where I am. So my next run is just going to be like Guts the Black Swordsman.
Yeah.
I am going to get good.
I would like to check out a mostly melee build. I think if I went melee, I would also do... I'm looking at the samurai, so I'd probably do a dex build again.
Whereas I'm using a katana as my melee weapon, so I'm gonna get something that makes big chunks.
Sure. But I like the bows, and I want to interact with the crafting system too, because it's so deep and interesting. But I don't really have a reason.
As a spellcaster, you have zero reason to do that.
So yeah, that's kind of where we both are. Neither of us have finished the game. We're both not too long after Radon.
I'm a little farther than you at this point, just because I spent the weekend playing Elden Ring.
You are, but
in a weird direction.
In different directions. I went around and killed a bunch of world bosses. You happened to follow the plot.
Maybe. I'm still not 100% sure about
I feel comfortable that you have followed the plot. And I think I just realized how to open the thing you're at?
Well, we'll talk about that after the podcast.
Yes. This is part that I really enjoy discovering, because this is the first Dark Souls-esque game that I've played entirely without assistance. Whether that be from a friend who is, without giving me spoilers, nudging me in the right direction, or a straight-up guide. I will look up stuff sometimes, especially in side quests, because it is a fucking FromSoft game. That shit is illegible.
Too opaque.
Yeah, way too opaque.
Like, intentionally so it's not a criticism of the game, but, like, if I need to know where a thing is, I'm just gonna fucking Google that.
Yeah. I remember when I looked up an NPC for a side quest, and you know how the wikis have, like, other articles in this genre thing at the bottom, and it was like 1,000 people I'd never heard of, and I'm like, okay, cool.
There are apparently many NPCs and quests in this game. I have interacted in, like, a questy fashion with maybe 2.
Yeah. It's the old penny arcade aphorism of your shepherd has bird parts, right?
It feels very... Every experience that we relate to each other with Elden Ring feels like we're playing similar but different games.
One of us is reading the Berenstain Bears, and the other one's reading the Berenstein Bears, and everything's just a little weird. What else have you been up to, my friend?
I mean, the other game.
Yes, that's true. So yeah, let's talk about WWE 2K22.
Because even if we're not watching the product, they make a fine wrestling game, so we're still using that.
Yeah, we were pretty hesitant on the final purchase of it. I won't go into all the details, but y'all saw 2K20.
Yeah.
So much that they didn't do a 2K21. They took the time, and they had to rebuild everything from the ground up, basically, to get it working. And is it graphically, in most cases, it's not better than 2K19.
In some cases, it's worse.
the real wrestlers, like Roman Reigns and Randy Orton, absolutely look better.
Yeah.
But like the creator wrestler parts, which is mostly what we use, it's like there's some loss of textures and fidelity and stuff. But
if you're wondering what we do with 2K games in general, you know how Journey of Wrestling? That, but an incredibly self-indulgent version with our own OCs.
We were both involved in e-fetting for long enough, and we aren't anymore because e-fetting changed. It's mostly on Twitter and is about interpersonal drama these days instead of wrestling. But we like that vibe, and we love telling stories about wrestling. So it's just kind of like a D&D campaign, but set in wrestling times.
Yep.
Yeah. But that takes a lot of work to do. Honestly, most of what we've been doing in the game is just making dudes.
And, like, we do it here because, 1, we get to make the visual dudes, and it's fun to do. And 2, boy howdy is it not worth making a Journey of Wrestling scenario about, and you guys wouldn't give a shit.
It's very much, let me show you my Pokemon.
Yeah, it's not, no, this is a fun hobby for the two of us to engage in.
But I do like the gameplay better. There's some iffy places. I think by the time they get the final DLC out, this will be a really fine game. And I would recommend it if you're looking for something different from 2K19, just a breath of fresh air. It definitely provides that.
Yep, and also, they have half of AEW's roster.
Yeah! It's like a third guys I've never heard of,
a third AEW talent now,
and then the rest of the WWE.
And then the main event of the WWE.
Which is, I mean, amusing as hell, but hey, I ain't mad about it. There's some drawbacks, like you don't have the entrance creation suite like they used to. You have to pick one, like we did some 10 years ago. But
in the last few years, we have been leaning more towards just picking one anyway, because the parts of different entrances really stopped fitting together.
Yeah. I wish you could change the lights.
Yeah, that's about it. Custom lights would be, even if it was just pick movement, pick lights.
Yeah. I'm not even that hung up on the pyro. Like, that's not as important for me.
No, just movement lights. That would be enough.
But if you use an arena, like the default ones, or if you create one that uses the big Trons, because there's so much less wrestler faces, it can go a long way toward creating those lights, even if the ones for the motion you're using are not the same color. So you can just be like, oh, this guy's got pink lights. I really wanted pink lights, or pink Trons. I wanted pink lights in my entrance. Bada boom, bada bang, there you go. It's pretty good.
Yeah, it's a good stopgap. The one thing I will always miss, and I will always miss it because we're never getting it back because it was an exploit in the first place, is I really miss not being able to import songs to use as theme music for, again, my Pokemans. Because they have them in my head, and I'd like it if they could use them.
Yeah. It's nice. I mean, you can do some finagling with Spotify, but I don't really want to give Spotify money, and it's a lot of extra work.
It's not good.
It's not clean, and you kind of have to time it right yourself, and
it's just, no. I'll just pick something approximate. It's fine.
Yeah, pretty much. Gameplay-wise, I would say it's an improvement. I like the new combo system as an option, and that it's not enforced.
I don't necessarily know that I'd agree, but I think part of that might be I don't like change.
Sure. Most people don't. It's faster. I appreciate that. And I mean, over 2K20, it's like a...
Well, I mean, look, yeah, compared to a non-functional game, it's a great game.
But compared to 19, I think I like it a little more. It's rough around the edges. I hope...
It feels like the start of a good rebuilding.
Yes, I agree. And I hope they get a chance to do more because WWE has been in talks with EA. And Kenny Omega himself told us that the AEW game is not going to be as good.
Which, I mean, fair. They don't got that kind of fucking budget.
Yeah, I just don't want to lose what we've come used to in, that storytelling that we like to do through universe mode and creating all these wrestlers and being like, yeah, they look great,
It's a fun activity that I would mourn the loss of.
I definitely felt it last year. In playing it this last month, I realized how much this loop was important to my enjoyment.
Yeah. Same. I really enjoy that activity. It's good to have a good version of it back. I sincerely hope the fine folks at 2K keep it in going forward, because this was a good game. This is a good game. They're planning on supporting it. I like that. And this was a good foundation to move forward with.
Yeah. I will say PC users, again, if you're coming to us for news for whatever reason, have been having way more problems with crashes and bugs than console users.
Console master race. Get on my level.
I mean, same with Elden Ring, really.
Yeah, you guys are insufferable pricks, and by you guys, I mean me too, because I also play PC games. PC gamers are generally insufferable fucking pricks about how much better PC is. Well, it swings and roundabouts. You take the good, you take the bad, you take them both, and you're a PC gamer.
Sometimes you get Fallout New Vegas. Sometimes you get... What the hell was the name of that game? Outer
Worlds.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah. So what else do we have? We've got a few minutes left in this podcast to talk about. Did you have anything else you've been doing lately, my friend, that is worth mentioning?
I've been watching a lot of YouTube.
That's good.
That's what I do to unwind when when my brain is too wiped from my day job to do other stuff.
I feel that. I spent all weekend doing fucking nothing. Literally sitting on the couch talking to your ass.
Yep, same. Yeah, fun fact, this is not a bit. We talk most of the time. Most of both of our lives is talking to the other one.
Yeah. That's how the podcast came about, in fact. I would like to talk about a journey I've been trying to take recently.
Okay.
This should fill out the last couple minutes here. I've been trying to read again.
It's this conversation. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm going to be brief because I don't want to really take up the whole end of the podcast with this, but I've noticed this has happened with other people who love to read in school, but then they got to their adult life and their mental issues sat in worse. But it's so hard for me to pick up a book and just read it. And as we've talked about on the podcast before, see Brenda Lita and the Washing Up, a lot of the books I don't like. So, even lowering my standards, I read Vampire Hunter D manga. And I read the first volume of it. I need to buy the next one. But it was good. It wasn't complicated. It's Vampire Hunter D, but it was a good story with cool art. I read a Mario manga, which I didn't care for because it was mostly poop jokes. But it was fine. I read it in a couple of hours. And then I picked up a book. that the internet tricked my girlfriend into reading. And it is the worst thing I've ever read.
Oh, you poor sweet summer child.
And
I've read this book. It's not... Look, I'm not going to fucking read it, but...
Well, okay, now hold on. I'm sorry. My Immortal's the worst thing I've ever read. But this book, as far as something that has been published with a lot of money put into it...
Yeah, it's pretty low tier on the actual published works ladder. I read a lot of original web fiction... good ones too, like, hey, look what's scrolling right across the screen. And also some very, very not good ones. So I have a different bar for what counts as bad.
Sure.
But this thing he's about to talk about, I read 2 sentences of and went, nope, and closed the book.
It's called the Octonumi. Feel free to Google that. Octo, as you'd expect, N-U-M-I. Very gorgeous presentation. I can definitely see how whoever was marketing this thing managed to trick so many people into buying it. It seems like a very interesting world, but man, it is the most... It feels like, all right, take your favorite Monster of the Week show.
Okay.
You know?
Supernatural.
Sure, Supernatural. That works well because there are 2 main characters who are dudes and are brothers. Say you were trying to digest the whole of Supernatural by only watching scenes where they weren't directly talking about the plot.
Okay, all right. So sort of a cargo cult, fucking missives from the post-apocalypse style of absorption.
Sure, and like also... And I'm going to try to be accurate here. Somewhere between a 16th and an 1/8 of the words have been replaced by made-up nonsense words.
And the rest have been replaced by, if you've watched Friends, Baby Kangaroo Tribbiani level, pointless, I found a thesaurus and I would like to show you my thesaurus words level bullshit.
I mean... And it's all written with the tone of the most annoying episode of Doctor Who, whichever one you think that is. And I just, like, every now and then I catch a glimpse of this might be good. This seems like it's interesting. And then they will ball it up and throw it out the window as fast as possible.
I mean, like, from what little I've absorbed, because I have gone, through and tried to read some of the little dictionary and bits and pieces here and what you've described, this seems like a thing that has excellent structure, like bones. The skeleton is good, and then they just piled poo on top.
No.
Really?
Someone described to them a good skeleton.
Ah, I see.
And then they built a poop skeleton out of poop, and then put spaghetti on the rest. And then went with their necromancy, arise, skeleton, and for some reason it got up and started walking around. Spaghetti falling everywhere as it shit-shambled across the stage.
Everything's better when nerds talk about it.